Welcome, everybody. It's exciting to see everyone today. Thank you so much for joining us for the For Us, By Us. How are you today, Anita? You're on mute.
How are you doing, Nicole?
I'm good. I'm excited. We have a large array of organizations showcased today, so I'm looking forward to an excellent day.
Definitely. And I cannot wait to hear the many different organizations that we will be presenting and what information and how they're going to help us in our community. So it's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. So before we start, we usually start with the land acknowledgement. So I'd like to take a moment of pause today. As a project and organization, we are located within Ajax, which is acknowledging the lands of the people of the Mississauga, Escugog Island First Nation. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all lands that we are on today, as we are on a virtual platform. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous people and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this place home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we can, and we each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. And to that, I'd like to acknowledge Maggie Assaltine. She will be presenting today. She's a community member who is rooted with mixed root from Tayanga, and my apologies, you'll have to correct my spelling, in Ireland. She's a mother, a daughter, and a sister. Maggie has spent her career in the helping field with the Indigenous community. She's a pipe carrier and a traditional hand drummer.
And for tonight, Maggie will be presenting us with a Thanksgiving address and an honor song. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Sego Seneguego, Neo Ronya, Yaha Nyanjats, Kanahiyaga Taindanega, Wakanayatan. So what I just said there is that I said hello, and I said my spirit name, which is Morning Songbird. And then I come from Taindanega, but I do live in Ajax. So I thought maybe what we would do today is we'll do the Thanksgiving address, which is a traditional Haudenosaunee way of kind of opening anything, any kind of event, just because it kind of connects all of us. So if everybody wants to just take a moment, today we are gathered and we see the cycles of life continue. We have given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one. We give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. We're thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy. She continues to care for us and has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Now our minds are one. We turn our minds to all the fish, life in the water. They are instructed to cleanse and purify the water. They also give themselves to us as food. We are grateful we can still find pure water. So now we turn to the fish and send our greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank for all the food and medicine plants, for all the strength that they give us in the healing. We gather all those food plants together as one and send them a greeting of thanks. Now our minds are one. We gather our minds together and send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us people. We are honored by them that they give up their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forests. We're glad they are still here and we hope they always will be so. Now our minds are one. Now we turn our thoughts to the trees. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some people use with shelter and shade, others with fruit beauty, and other useful things. Many people of the world use the tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree for life. Now our minds are one. For the wingeds, we thank the birds that fly over our heads. The Creator gave them beautiful songs. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. We give greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. We have now arrived at the place where we end of our words. Of all the things we have named it, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one. So now I'm going to sing Snake Medicine Song, which is a healing song. And with what's been going on in the world today, I think that this is kind of fitting. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maggie. It was a really great performance, and even with the Thanksgiving address. And just as you said, it is so timely to be able to do that in what's been going on in today's climate. So thank you once again for your performance.
Nyawagoa, which means thank you so much. In Haudenosaunee.
Thank you. So once again, I would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. As Nicole stated, this is a for us, by us. It's a showcase to showcase all of the different communities, organization that we have within Durham region. Now, there are going to be more. Obviously, there's more community organizations out there, but we just was able to get a handful at this time. So we want to be able to present some of those organizations to you. So the purpose of this meeting, as I said, is to introduce family-based resources and supports in Durham region to the community to educate and empower Black families to navigate the spaces that are traditionally challenging for them. Our goal for this evening is to strengthen awareness of the Black-focused and Black servant organizations existing in Durham region so that Black parents, caregivers, guardians can build a strong community foundation and in turn, definitely a strong family. So how this evening will go is that we will be presenting some of the different organizations will be presenting their organization, giving us a brief description of what their organization is about. You will also be provided with a QR code so that you'll be able to get connected to those resources once we have concluded our program tonight. There will be some questions you can ask your questions in the question and answer chat or in the chat, and we will address them throughout the evening. So first, I would like to start to speak about our education services. So I'm going to have Cheryl Rock from Durham Black Educators Network to present. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much, Netta. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. My name is Cheryl Rock, and I'm one of the founding members and also current chair of Durham Black Educators Network. So we've been around for really, this is our 16th year. It's really exciting to have this opportunity to share. Before I begin, I also want to share that I am also a principal at a secondary school within Durham District School Board. So I'm here within, I would say, within those two roles. So it's exciting always for me to be able to share that. Back to the previous slide, if you saw briefly, our mandate is really just about optimizing educational experiences for students, parents, staff, and community contacts who identify as being part of the Black diaspora within Durham region. And in the years that we have been active, we've really just looked at how could we respond to what students and staff and parents really need in terms of educational services. So to be in really specifics, just you'll see a bit of data on the screen. We piloted a course that we named Black Studies. So that course was developed by a Durham Black Educators Network writing team in 2007, and it was piloted at J. Clark Richardson in 2008. And to date, we've expanded from not just 1 or 2 courses within Durham, but there are 12 active courses throughout high schools in Durham. So that really speaks to the fact that there is a growing understanding that we have to address the needs of our students. We have, over the years, had conferences that address the needs of high school students, and actually just currently, today released the webinar series created by our secondary and So We Rise ambassadors. And that's a real opportunity for students across the board to understand what are some of the social issues, the things that Generation Z or Gen Z look at in terms of how they would like to have things addressed that would really help to center their identity, to remove barriers, to address the issues that they come across every day. And throughout the years, our collaborations have enabled us to be able to spend at least the last 9 years building our Activating Student Success Awards. We recently had our award scholarship where we had over 85 applicants, and we're able to award a very large number of scholarships. I would say about 15 scholarships went out. So that's really just where we start to focus on how we have people focus on funding their future. Going to the next slide, I just wanted to highlight a couple of points where our programming has led us over the years, and to highlight that as well as being influential in curriculum development and culturally responsive practices at the secondary level, we have had members contribute to Afrocentric perspectives, which is really looking at elementary curriculum and making sure that those pieces are there that center Black identity and bring a perspective that includes multiple voices and layers of identity. Our programming for high school students is grades 9 through 12, and we have expanded to create a leadership and mentorship program over the years, and we're currently in our 10th year. And we have made in the past the efforts to really address elementary student leadership through our And So We Rise elementary program. And what we really want to see there is that students leave their high school experience and move into and transition to high school, knowing and believing that they're leaders who can truly make a difference, not only for themselves, but within their schools and beyond. And our most recent development this year has been our Durham Parent Advisory Committee. So the DBAN committee is in partnership with DDSB. And what we look at is how can we support parents in navigating through the system, being informed, understanding pieces, for example, the recently released DDSB student census data, and the ways that their voice can be heard and centered in planning conversations with DDSB. Thank you. So for more information, just that was a brief overview, and you'll see on the screen some ways to get in touch with us. If you're interested in becoming a part of our mailing list, when you go to dban.org, you can sign up for that, or you can definitely contact us by our Gmail or check out our new programming at Durham Black Educators on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for that information. It was great information to know what DBEN is doing within the community. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And next we will have Nicholas Burham from Side by Side Family Services, who / student advocate. So he will be presenting on their student and family advocate. Nicholas?
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I appreciate being a part of this forum that gets to address all the services available to the Black community in Durham. I'm here as the side-by-side representative. I'm representing for our agency, and I am the student and family advocate for Durham region. We can go to the next slide. So who is Side by Side? We are an agency that is also an Ajax. We service all of Durham region. We're a nonprofit, and we provide safe space and resource to Black families as well as other racialized communities in Durham. We also provide programs such as counseling, parenting education, mentorship, and child and youth development programs. Next slide, please. And so my role is a new role, and I am the student and family advocate. And what my role is to provide leadership on anti-Black racism, to resource to schools, and also to ultimately help families navigate through the educational system, and specifically Black families. And so why was this role created? It was a response to success outcomes in Ontario. And so my role is throughout Ontario. So there's 17 agencies involved, and I am the agency involved for Durham region. Right now I'm servicing from Pickering to Whitby. And so what we're gonna be doing is looking at disparities in outcomes for Black students, also the overrepresentation of suspension and disciplinary action, and also dropout rates. We'll also be looking at to address underrepresentation in graduation. And so we're starting with young students from the ages of 6 to 12 to try and have earlier intervention to look for better outcomes for students. So what does this look like? So what it looks like for families involved and for myself is having meeting support. So if there's a need for families to have someone support them through meetings, whether going through an IEP process and any other various meetings, I'll be there to support them through that process. It's also to help with planning for success. So working with schools, administration, and families to come up with plans to have the most successful outcome for their students and children. And it's one-to-one support. So it's not a group session. It is very tailored towards working with families and very tailored to specific needs. And also connecting families with resources, like many of the wonderful resources that we have available here on this panel. And so how do we start? So the easiest way to start is just make contact. So contact me directly. My information will be shared as well. We just complete intake forms and then we start planning. We work with families, we work with schools, and we make the plans. It's that easy. So we're just going to be just keeping it really easy and just make contact, and we go from there. And here's my contact information. You can jot it down. I can also share it in the chat for anyone who needs to see it, so you don't have to rush to write it down. Next slide, please. And these are my partners. Wonderfully, I've got an opportunity to partner with DBEN, the Durham Black Educators Networks, who have been a great resource to us. And also we're funded by the Ministry of Children and Community Social Services.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for that information. I do have one question for you that was in the chat. And the question was, you mentioned that you go all the way up to Whitby. Would you be able to let our participants know who is responsible for Oshawa?
So right now, we don't have anyone directly specific to Oshawa. We have another program called Together We Are, which is supporting families that goes to Oshawa, but specifically for the SFA role, the student and family advocate. There is no one specifically. If families do contact me from Oshawa, I will give them information as much as I can. Obviously, I don't want to see any families turned back. But right now, my mandate is is for Pickering, Ajax, Whitby.
Okay, so I'm going to, another question. And so I'm going to assume that another question was, hello, do you go to Peterborough as well? So I'm going to assume it's pretty much what you just said for Oshawa.
It's pretty much the same.
Right.
You know, like any words I can give or any wisdom I can share, I will. But, you know, right now my mandate is just those three
areas for sure. Thank you so much. And once again, you will be connected. You will be provided with a QR code, so you will be able to connect with our organizations that is being represented today. Thanks again, Nicholas. Next, we are going to look at our mentorship programs. And first, we are going to start with Durham 1, which is Steve Linton. Welcome, Steve.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Anytime.
Okay, so jumping right into it, my name's Stephen Linton. I'm from Durham 1, I'm the chair of Durham 1. And essentially, our vision is to work collaboratively with the purpose of celebrating the diversity of culture throughout the region of Durham. We do look to empower individuals and groups by amplifying the voices of equity-deserving groups, increasing opportunities to recognize the contributions of residents of the community, and bridge community gaps by identifying ways to diversify tables across the region with the objective of increasing community engagement, involvement, and community inclusion. Here we go. All right, thanks. No worries. I had it too.
I was like, oh.
It's all good. So overall, our purpose is to provide and support opportunities to unify diverse groups in Durham region, to address barriers faced by diverse groups in Durham region by supporting and identifying opportunities to hear collective concerns and create opportunities to advocate for change together. Promoting business, programs, events, and initiatives led by diverse groups across Durham, working collectively to apply a community development and strength-based approach by building on the strengths of Durham region, and to identify and promote opportunities for diverse communities to represent themselves at tables across the Durham region. So ultimately, kind of putting that all together, we're looking at the mantra of nothing about us without us. So it's the fact that, you know, on many days and many occasions, there's building, there's dialogue, there's conversations that go on around building and trying to continue to build on the strengths of Durham. And the fact that we're seen as an organization is that it's not always represented by the diversity of Durham currently. So, you know, part of our goal is to identify some of those voices, those unique voices, sometimes those silence voices, and try and bring them to the table so their thoughts, opinions, concerns, challenges, wins and successes can also be heard at these tables. Thank you. So we're a relatively new organization, starting in 2019. And again, it was based on a lot of our members facing concerns and challenges in Durham. And when we went to try and address them, we found that some of the solutions looked at a Toronto-based framework. So we really saw that Durham was becoming a region unto itself with its own unique challenges. So part of our goal was to look at how we get the voices to the table, how we start to speak to people so we can actually learn about the Durham experience and then look at Durham-based solutions. So in 2020, we launched Cut the Talk, where we were able to engage around 31 young people from across Durham and just engaging dialogue around, you know, their experiences growing up, being raised, going to school, trying to find employment in Durham, with the goal of taking some of that data and sharing it with community partners, such as the region of Durham, the school boards, the town of Ajax, and Carrier Community Health Center. We're looking at a program called Dine and Talk, which is going to be encouraging families to speak. So looking at a lead, which could be a child, could be an elder, could be a parent, and encouraging conversation just to learn from each other, but then to share those experiences with us as an organization so we can advocate for the needs of the family. Looking at creating Blend, which will be the Black-led engagement network, which is really around collecting Durham-based data. So collecting the experiences and challenges faced by Durham residents, and then making sure that we've got a database so we can compare data from over the years, especially when there's claims that things are being done to address some of these concerns. So Table Talks, again, is another platform for us to hear the voice of the community. And something that we're excited about launching this year is Know Your Rights. So we're looking at a Know Your Rights youth campaign. So identifying some of the concerns or challenges young people may have when interacting with Durham Regional Police officers, and having some of those questions and concerns answered, and then putting it out in a platform that is conducive to the youth lens. So social media such as Instagram and TikTok. And this is all going to be youth led. So looking at youth engagement and a young person who's going to be our creative director. And then diversity is around, again, bringing groups together, and again, sharing experiences. Next slide. So some of the other events we're looking at is the Durham One Festival, which happened in 2019, and Together We Rise, which was the virtual Black History Month event. So overall, we can be contacted at www.durham1.ca. And we'll be reaching out because we are looking for the engagement from the community around getting some information and looking at how we can continue to support and advocate for the needs of the community.
That's so perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. And it was very interesting to hear what you're doing in the community. So I can't wait to hear about more stuff that you do. And once again, panelists and viewers, you can connect with them once we give you the QR code, and you can connect with the organizations that we have presented tonight. Thanks again, Stephen.
No problem, thanks.
Next, I'd like to introduce Power to Be International, Kisha, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, McPherson. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's Keisha. It's
Keisha,
just,
okay.
My mom didn't use the E. I don't know, so.
Okay, I get it, girl. I get it.
It is fine. Thank you so very much for having us. And this is a fantastic event. It's so interesting to learn about all of the great work that's happening in Durham. And we're so happy to be a part of that. And just learning about it more of the organizations. So Power to Be International is a grassroots organization. We started in about 2009, and we started with sort of developing programs to support youth, education and leadership programs. And some of what we've been doing so far has been around service learning programs for post-secondary students abroad. So we do a lot of service learning and sort of development programs in the Caribbean, for example. So in Jamaica, Grenada, we've done some programs in Haiti and St. Lucia as well. And so what we've been doing is creating opportunities for post-secondary students to be able to develop skills as well as learn about the history and some of the challenges that we experience in terms of living in the diaspora. So thinking a little bit about, our experience here in Canada. And then sort of bringing that to some of the younger people that might not necessarily have an information about the history. So a lot of our service learning programs will have, like, for example, our main one, our flagship one that we've run for 10 years, but we had to stop due to COVID and not being able to travel, was in Jamaica. It's called the Power to Be It's called the Camp Power to Be. And we ran a literacy and a leadership program every year in Jamaica. And we bring volunteers, student volunteers there to engage in that. But my favorite part of that program is the service learning program and the service learning curriculum that was created in order to talk a little bit about what takes place in the global South and how, relationships with Canada and other parts of the world impacts the experiences and education of so many countries that have been labeled as developing. A lot of the countries that we Black people come from that live in Durham and across Toronto. And so that's the main focus of the program. And that's how we started. We started then engaging into local programs a few years now when we were funded for doing a program called Engaging Girls, which we are currently extended. So we're excited about that. Our Engaging Girls program is a program that was developed to focus on the needs of racialized girls that were in high school at the time. So looking at grade 9, probably about grade 9 and 10. We're extending that program this summer summer. So this is our current initiative that we have going on, which is engaging girls. And it's going to be a camp style, retreat style program for Black girls that are 12 to 15 years old, going into grades 8, 9, and 10, looking at that developmental period or that developmental time, and wanting to provide some extra support and motivation. That's really the focus of the funding and the grant that we received to run that program. So there's information on that program on our website. I spoke a little bit about our literacy and our leadership programs, which is Camp Power to Be, which we do normally overseas, but because of COVID, we've put that aside for a bit, and hoping to start those service learning programs for post-secondary students through our development programs, probably in 2022 or perhaps 2023, it all depends. So the service learning is also a major portion of our programming. So a lot of the work that we do is sort of developing and working with youth communities. So I think I heard one of the previous presenters sort of talking about having a lot of these programs developed and run by youth. And that is pretty much what our Aquila's Room. So Aquila's Room is a program that, or initiative, I should say, that came out of our Engaging Girls program. We wanted to provide Black girls specifically with more safer spaces online. So focusing on media, you know, I myself am a professor, so and I focus on media a lot, looking specifically at engaging online media, learning about anti-oppressive approaches to engagement. And so Aquila's Room is that space where we were able to sort of take a curriculum that was based on anti-oppressive approaches for engaging online and having these girls create their own examples and content and all of that stuff, and using online spaces safely. So Aquila's Room is an initiative. We have a number of Black girls that currently volunteer on that. They write for the blog as well as post on our Instagram. It's at Aquila's Room is the Instagram. And so this is really what we focused on for a long time. I would say probably over the last couple of years. We've been working on Aquila's Room, and now we're sort of expanding into the Engaging Girls program as well. And so the mentorship that we've been working on here is really engaging youth, not only in participating in the programs, but in creating and leading the programs. So for example, our Engaging Girls camp for this summer will be led by post-secondary Black girls to then mentor other the Black girls that are ages 12 to 15, so that they can then participate and sort of have that peer-to-peer mentorship sort of model. And so we're using this as an opportunity to not only engage youth as participants, but also to help them to develop some leadership skills as they lead the programs, as they help to develop the programs and so forth. So we have, yeah, so those are our main programs right now. So thank you for going back and forth with the slides. I was just trying to figure out what's the best way to capture it, but that's really what we're doing. Now, of course, people might be thinking, well, what about boys? But that's really what we're working on next. I think just sort of looking at developing some partners so that we can start to create, you know, as a researcher myself, I focus on Black girls. You know, my whole dissertation was focused on Black girls' education in the GTA. And so that's the reason why I feel I have more skills and knowledge to sort of work on programming for Black girls, but looking for partners so that we can work together, get funding to develop programs for Black boys as well. So no, that's okay, Nicole. Thank you so very much. If anybody has any questions, this is where you can reach me there. It's Keisha McPherson. You can go to our website, which is www.thepowertobe.org. You can reach me by email. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Keisha. I appreciate it. Great information that you shared with us. Thank you. Have a good evening. And next, we're going to have Wonderfully Made, presented by Adriana Perryman. Adriana?
Hi. Hi,
hello,
everyone.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for having me, and I feel so honored to present alongside all of these amazing organizations this evening. So I'll be presenting Wonderfully Made. We are currently a very new organization that we kind of just started, and we hope to start servicing our community in September. And so Wonderfully Made was created to create a community hub for young women, Black young women and girls, to access mentors who are knowledgeable and the essential skills they need to succeed within the workplace, but also through life challenges such as systemic racism, and to feel a sense of belonging and connection with their culture and identity. And so Wonderfully Made fosters healthy self-esteem, as well as we look at emotional and mental wellness, so we can really build healthy experiences for our young girls, so they are able to become leaders in their own communities and enter adolescence and adulthood with confidence. And so our programming is focused on girl empowerment, but also includes this intersection of race, culture, and identity, which a lot of girls programs that, you know, are more general don't address. And so essentially Wonderfully Made equips Black women aged 16 to 29 years old with the skills to lead mentorship programs. So similarly, we hope to engage older women and young women in workshops to build their mentorship skills, build their leadership skills, and then be able to also lead and mentor younger girls who are between the ages of 12 and 16. And so in the process, the program will provide guidance to these young women in their personal life and create opportunities in their professional life through skills development and mentorship with established professionals. And so some of the workshops that we hope to run will include things like financial literacy, identity development, emotional intelligence, as I mentioned before, and how we manage difficult in life situations. And so here on the slides, I kind of, because we are in the early stages right now, we're at recruitment. And so we're hoping to get some girls who are age 16 and up to be mentors and engage in our online content. And so in terms of online content, we began to develop training modules so that can be accessed online. So there's different kind of workshops these girls can take part of, as well as we will be also hopefully running in-person workshops as well. If that doesn't happen, we'll carry them over Zoom. And then we will engage them in mentoring, matching, guidance, navigation system to access specific supports. Again, if there's like a specific, you know, content that young women want to explore, we'll be able to develop those programs for them. We hope to run a retreat, a year-end retreat that kind of involves like a nice wellness spa, as well as to bring on keynote speakers for specific professions that they may be interested in learning more about, so that they can gain access to Black women mentors who are doing the things that they hope to see themselves doing as well. And we also hope to partner with schools so we can build that connection and really ensure that our Black young women and girls are getting access to supports they need to be successful in their future careers and to be successful in school and to be leaders. And lastly, we have the mentoring, so mentors in school, as I previously discussed, and programs by the older girls, and to continue this kind of model of mentorship and networking. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. And I look forward to hearing the rest of everyone else's presentation.
Thank you, Adriana. I appreciate your information. I can definitely see so far there are going to be some collaborations and networking going on amongst all of these organizations. I'm so excited. I hope that it actually happens and we get to just work together. So thank you again, Adriana. Next, I want to present for the mentorship program is the restorative FIBI, who will be presented by Aisha Francis. Aisha, I hope I pronounced your name right. You know how, oh, it's Olivia. Okay, sorry, Olivia. So never mind that. I'm good.
That's okay. Aisha's here in spirit.
Okay.
Yes, I'm really excited to be representing FIBI today. And Aisha, this is another grassroots Durham-based charity. So thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here and to learn more about what's going on in Durham in terms of these programs and charities and agencies. So I'm very excited to be a part of this. So thank you. So I'll just ask to go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So my name is Olivia, and I am the Director of Community Outreach for Project Restore FIBI. So FIBI is an acronym that stands for Families Impacted by Incarceration. So this, what was once a not-for-profit, is now a charity, and we were founded in January of 2014. And essentially what we do is we focus on serving and supporting families that have been directly impacted by incarceration. So to further elaborate on that, we work with families that have a member or a loved one who is incarcerated, and we work with the families as a whole individually, and that includes the family member that's incarcerated. So what this is it's a soft place for families to land when their family is disrupted by a family member's involvement in the criminal justice system. So we aim to provide a safe space and supportive space for these families to heal, grow, and thrive. And basically our main goal, along with our mission statement, is to interrupt the cycles of trauma, stigma, and incarceration. Statistics show that when one family member is incarcerated, the rates are doubled, and another family member then follows in that same path. So our goal is to make sure that the family unit is continued to be whole, and that we focus on the family unit structure. So we really want to make sure that families are, and they should feel, integrated and are an integral part of our communities, as we've seen with other of these other agencies and programs, that families are crucial to our communities. So we want to make sure that we definitely keep the family unit identified and as an important member of our communities. And yeah, we just want to make sure that they're supported. Our pillars of work include grassroots community support services, research and scholarship, and education and capacity building and training. So further to that, as I mentioned, our mission statement is to keep families intact and thriving. And our vision is to really see all families supported, strengthened, affirmed, and included. There's really still a large stigma with families who have a member incarcerated, or if that's something that's part of their family unit. And we're really trying to break down those stigmas, because even still today, there are a lot of ongoing and developing stigmas around this. And our goal is to really just bog those down and make sure that we address all of the things that need to be addressed. So we focus on both reactive, so this is once the loved one has been incarcerated, and proactive responses. So proactive would be providing family support, such as counseling, if we can provide them with groceries, clothing, school supplies, things like that. We want to make sure that we're hitting all pillars of what that impact looks like for said family and family members. Yes, thank you. So these are just some of the events that we've been part of in the last year, and some change. So we actually, although we're a Durham charity, we do span across the GTA. So we don't say no to people outside of the Durham region, although this is still our focus. So we participated in the Black Mental Health Week, which was a really great seminar to talk about Black mental health and what that looks like in response to incarceration, along with other events within the Ministry of the Attorney General. We participated, in their Black History Month celebration. That's pretty big within that ministry. And we've also, as you can see, been a part of the Families Impacted by Incarceration, Gun Violence, and Trauma. So this is just a span of, we know that there are strings attached to what incarceration looks like. So we try to make sure that we incorporate those within our outreach. And if you can go to the next slide as well, that'd be wonderful. Awesome, thank you. So this is personal to me, because as the Director of Community Outreach, I created this event back in August 2015. That was the first year that we spearheaded our Project Back to School event. So initially we partnered with the City of Toronto to support families in that surrounding community. I think it was Kennedy and Ellesmere, or Kennedy and Lawrence. I can't remember right now, it's been a while. So that was our area. And for, I think, about 3 or 4 years, we had partnered with the City of Toronto to provide backpacks filled with school supplies for students from kindergarten to grade 12. This event is always and will always be free. We like to provide food and games and entertainment, and then the closing piece of that event is the backpacks. This was a really, really great initiative because, and not to sound sort of like biased, because I did what was behind it, but just to see the fruits of that labor, to have families come back every year and look forward to it, and to really focus on one of the pillars of FIBI, which is education. So one of the things that gets affected when a family member is incarcerated is education. Like that's one of the things, and we want to make sure that we provide students and families with the tools for success for education and whatever educational resources that they might need. So currently we're actually fundraising for our event that's happening August 5th. This is the first time we're actually having it in Durham. So we've collaborated with the Durham District School Board to provide educational supplies for students that have been identified at a local public school in FIBI. So this is a really big thing for us because we've always wanted to make sure that we have our grassroots in Durham identified and established. So this is one of the ways that we're doing that. So we've been doing some bake sales where half the proceeds go to fundraising for this. And yeah, so there's more information to come. So if you'd like to contact me about that, this will be our 5th year doing this. And I'm happy to share more information or provide the resources so you can share it with your networks, share broadly. And if you're interested, donate if that's appropriate to say that. Thank you. That's pretty much all that I have to share today. But again, I'm open to connecting with anybody afterwards. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for that information. I actually didn't know about your organization, so it was great to hear what your organization does. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a lot of information and I'm loving it because I didn't know about some of these organizations within Durham. So that's one of the benefits of us being able to have this For Us, By Us community showcase. So thank you everyone who has presented so far in the education and in the mentorship section for Durham. So right now, I'm going to have a panel discussion. So I would love to introduce my panelists. So my panelists will be Nicole Perryman, Keisha Foresee, Cheryl Rock, and Olivia Williams. And the purpose of this panel discussion is just so that we can get a little bit more information about how each of these organizations can help and support the families within the community based on the different systems that we get involved with at times within our society. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so I'll start with the first question. So the first question, this is for either Cheryl or Nicole, but what do you think allyship with the Black community should look like for Black serving organizations?
Okay, I don't mind going. I would love to share. So when I think of that notion of allyship, I also want to interject their co-conspirator. I'm thinking that you really want to see the action behind the words or the notions or the sentiments of support. And speaking as an educator, I would connect it back to what I hinted about with our working around DBEN's mandate. So essentially with DBEN being a grassroots organization that was basically put together by, oh yes, hopefully we'll get questions, that would be great. So having an organization that was formed by educators who identifies Black, by Black employees within DDSB, it was really key for us at that time, many years ago, to make sure it's centered in our voices and our experiences, and that we're really listening in a restorative way, in an intentional way to who we are serving, mainly in our case, our students. When I think about what would happen in terms of with the Durham District School Board, it's looking at how they definitely would have worked with us and continue to work with us as allies, but we move more towards co-conspirator. When we think about being culturally responsive educators that need to make shifts in pieces that really have been colonized over time, when we think about curriculum or the spaces or the practices and procedures that we have. And then quickly, because I know I'm just conscious of time, if we think about the DDSB as part of our partnership with Durham Black Educators Network, that I would say that we view ourselves as partners with the community, that we look to build community relationships that would help to center the experiences of people who identify as Black or as part of the Black diaspora. And centering their identity is the way that we start to build programming that would be responsive to what they need.
Nice, interesting, very good. Nicole, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm gonna also, collaborate with what Cheryl shared in terms of us being co-conspirators, accomplices in part of this movement and towards creating equity for Black families. I think one of the things that I did within our organization is made sure that we had representation, that represented our board members, are represented of the people that we service, that our staff team also represented the people that we service, and our youth, plug in for Adriana, who is my daughter, to develop their own programs. So allowing them to have their ideas and their concepts and support their development altogether. And I think just continuing to create space to assess our barriers, to assess, are we creating equity within our organization to ensure that we're creating alliances with the people that we're working with or the people that we're serving.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. The next question is for Cheryl, and I think you already touched base on it a little bit, Cheryl, but how do you foresee the education system making changes to improve educational equity for Black students?
Thank you for that question, Anata. So one piece that I would share is that a lot of our work within DDSB centers around anti-oppressive training. So when we think about anti-oppression, it's really important to note that the impact is far bigger, greater, more important than the intention, that we really want to make sure that what is happening addresses the needs of the people that we serve. In terms of addressing the needs, so we have a human rights policy, for example, that's developing. We have been engaged in anti-Black racism training, conversations, looking at ways to really understand what has happened in curriculum. So I feel that that has been a great advancement, because in past years, you would start to have conversations around marginalization, for example, or who's missing with a critical lens at curriculum, but now moving to really acknowledging the fact that there is anti-Black racism happening through policies and through the way the practice is applied. So in terms of the shift in education, it's really being responsive to the recently released student census data, being responsive to parent voices over the years. And I'm not going to say it's perfect, but there has been an intentional shift to really look at what is it that people are saying is happening. So when we think about some of the pieces that were shared earlier around dropout rates, or I would say push out rates, or looking at things such as suspension rates and all those pieces that have only been echoed by census data, that's nothing that we didn't know before, but we're really just becoming more intentional and more specific in how we create the space that students need. So they really truly feel that that is their school, that they can engage and fully bring their whole identity to all experiences, because diversity, or being a being with layers, is a human right. So they need to really feel that they are, owning and being responded to in that space in the way that helps them to reach their full potential.
For sure, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much. The next question is for Nicole. What can community organizations and Black families do to support these initiatives?
One of the things I was reflecting on was many organizations that do exist, that do get a large part of the funding. They're there and available to serve families, but they're not always available to serve our Black families. And I think, such as, Carrier Community Health Center for partnering with us, it's really important for those larger organizations to consider how can we support these Black-led organizations, because we're on the ground reaching the people. When we talk about what happened with Kajenga, we came out in July of 2020, that's a year ago. And in over that period of time, we've reached over 1,000 people. And our ability to connect with the Black community, to support with the Black community, comes because we represented the Black community. And larger organizations need to kind of create space for our organizations to be successful and thrive. Similar to what Olivia shared with her organization, what Steve Linton shared, is that we're really small organizations. We get a small pocket of funding and we're expected to do so much things and reach so much people. And that's not fair. So I definitely believe that larger organizations need to work with us so that we be able to support our community to a larger extent. And as Cheryl was saying, we need to create equitable outcomes for our families. And we can only do that if we're given the opportunity to do the work.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Keisha, what steps are child welfare agencies taking to begin to create a culturally informed lens in their service delivery?
Thanks, Anita. So first, before I get too deep into it, just so people know, I'm program manager at One Vision, One Voice through the Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies. So in my role there, I manage the One Vision, One Voice program, which is basically there to address the disparities and disproportionalities for Black children, youth, and families within the child welfare system. So in terms of steps that child welfare agencies are taking, one of them would be the implementation of our African Canadian service delivery model, as well as the race equity practices. Now, agencies are not mandated to actually embed these programs into the work that they're doing with families. So we're really trying to urge the government to understand the importance of the accountability framework piece of it as it relates to Black families. So within the race equity practices, we look at commitment to courageous leadership practice, collecting and analyzing data. I think Olivia mentioned issues around data, and Keisha did it as well. Cheryl did it as well. I think we all are in agreement that we need to see the numbers, and the data is very important. All it's doing is just reaffirming to us what we already know, but it is important for us to gather that data. We evaluate programs and monitor performance in terms of practice. And this is something we're going to be doing with One Vision, One Voice going forward, because we haven't really been able to say whether or not these service delivery models or these race equity practices as they've been developed, whether or not they're actually making a difference in terms of the disproportionalities and disparities that we're seeing around overrepresentation of Black families within child welfare. So an important thing that has to happen is we have to evaluate, and that's going to be our plan going forward with One Vision, One Voice, as well as allocating appropriate resources and dedicated resources. So I know I saw Karen Saunders' name actually pop up, and she's one of the leads at Durham CAS for the One Vision, One Voice program, and she's actually doing really, really good work there. And when you have the development of these programs, it's important for the resources to be backed, for them to be backed by resources. Same thing like what Nicole is saying. It's not enough to just have, organizations have Black teams or groups for Black folks, and then they're not being funded, right? They're not being given the resources they need to do good work. So that's another example of it. Engaging African Canadian parents and communities is very important, and establishing effective internal complaint mechanisms. Families need to have a way to complain, right? They need to have a way to be able to say what they're experiencing and being able to call it anti-Black racism as it is. Providing daily supervision, ongoing training, and of course, establishing collaborations and partnerships, which I think is really key. And I think that's how, Nicole and I have worked since I've been in this role. Really working with her within the community and the work that she's doing has been fantastic. So yeah, those are some of the things that are happening at agencies, or at least through OACAS and One Vision, One Voice, to address the disparities.
Nice. Thank you so much, Keisha, for that information. Thank you. Olivia, how do Black families create safe spaces to discuss the challenges facing Black communities in the criminal justice system?
That's a very good question. And honestly speaking, FIBI was created for that reason. There was an identified gap in the system for helping not only families, but Black families when they have a member of their family incarcerated. So I think that over time, there's been a huge development, but there's still a lot of work to be done in creating safe spaces to discuss these challenges. And one of them is to address sort of what those things are. So have open dialogue. I think a lot of times, as I mentioned before, the stigma is still very strong when it comes to incarceration and having a member or a loved one of your family incarcerated. And that's one of the major barriers, is talking about it. And I think if we, as our organizations have expressed, we have these resources, and it's sharing those resources and making it known, available to our families so that they can then create those spaces within their own homes. And also there's community forums such as this, right? So a lot of times you feel that you're facing things on your own and you don't know that these are available. So hence why Aisha created FIBI, because she had gone through this herself with 6 children, and what resources were available to her. How would she navigate these spaces with her children? Because you have to talk about the family as a unit and each child individually, because it affects them differently. And also a big thing is introducing, which is something that FIBI does, is introducing counseling and therapy, both group and individual. And again, I know that the next question is, well, how are we affording this, and how are we able to access these resources? Because again, when you have a member incarcerated, and majority of members of families who are incarcerated are parents, so parents usually equal income, right? So that means that one person's income is now sort of gone for the time being, and so we need to introduce resources to fill that gap. So there is actually a resource called Black Mental Health Matters. They have a website I can share later as well. And this is actually a really good tool that's recently developed, to my knowledge, that they actually work with families and individuals with your own income or budget so that you can afford these resources. So again, knowing that these are available to you is really key. And also, I really just think it's about just breaking down that stigma. A lot of times you'll see that people just do not want to say anything. You know, you'll notice that a member of the family is not present for some time, and there's just not a lot of conversations about why or how. And that's where assistance also comes in. Do you need groceries? Do you need clothes for your children? Do you need clothes for yourself for work? You know, and I think it's just about having that open dialogue, and even having somebody come into the family unit to moderate, mediate, because everyone has their own emotions and processing things. So for those safe spaces to be created, I think it's good to have maybe someone neutral come in and just assist those families. Again, FIBI does that as well. And I think that's sort of the open door there. That's sort of the leap. And then from there, the work can begin. It's not as simple, but it starts in that way. And I think there's a lot more to be said, but in a nutshell, that's sort of one way to start to create those safe spaces. So
for sure. Thank you. Thank you. Either Cheryl, Olivia, or Nicole can answer this, but how can community organizations develop safe spaces for Black families, youth, and caregivers? I don't know who wants to go first.
I don't mind adding. I'll be brief, but the first thing that comes to mind for me when I hear the term safe space, sometimes you'll hear people go in and say this is a safe space, but I always think safe for whom? So just the fact of being open to having a conversation when people are invited or included in spaces, what would make this safe for you to have certain interactions? And I often would go to the term safer space, because we don't know what's happening in different people's lives. Yes, and exactly as Keisha said as well, I loved seeing that on the screen because it's a good reminder. We have to be aware of people have so many layers. We will never really know what they're going through. I also feel just by really being responsive in terms of listening and just being able to listen, respond, and collaborate in a way that is meaningful, because often I would say from my educator seat, but also from DBEN, I'll often hear people say, I don't feel like I have a voice. I don't feel like people are listening to me. So just really listening and checking in that the person feels that they've been heard as a starting point.
Definitely. We need to hear their narrative because it's their story. Yes. Olivia, Nicole?
I'll go next. Just to add to that, thank you so much, Cheryl. That's a really great point, and that hits the nail on the head. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is just to in addition to that, adhere to the space and environment. Is this environment for youth? Is it for young adults? What's the setting? Because as our organizations, we have our own demographics, and sometimes that's not what is being asked, but also it's leading into those spaces where that can be provided. So it's also just leaning into, okay, is this a safe space for, like Cheryl said, for everybody? Is it just maybe for a specific group, demographic, things like that? Because that also adds to, okay, can I say this and will people understand what I'm saying? Will they understand, like Cheryl said, will I be heard? Because oftentimes, you know, when you go through different life stages, just sort of moving from this topic, you want to make sure that the person who goes through it understands what you're saying and where you're coming from in all aspects, physically, emotionally, things like that. So I think leaning into that environment and really clicking into what's our demographic here also helps for us as organizations.
For sure, for sure. Nicole?
Great responses. I just wanted to also say, Olivia, I heard about your organization when I was working at Durham Family Court Clinic. And, you know, when you're working with families who have someone who's incarcerated, there's so much stigma around incarceration and so many false beliefs around, you know, the children's experience with that incarcerated parent. And to create such a space, like I'm floored. So thank you so much. for taking that initiative to start that organization. And I think that's the best place of what we do, right? We saw a need and we sought to figure out how do we support that individual, that family, that community who is going through that space. Safe spaces. A couple of days ago, we were talking about doing a wellness fair, which we hope to do in a couple of years. We can do in person. And one of the things came up was around, you know, police officers. Do we have police officers act as security at our event? And right away, we started to debate that instance, right? For some people, having a police officer there is safe, but for me, having a police officer there is not safe. And so that's what I think safer spaces are, is when we really start to understand who is that space going to be used for and who's coming in, is that person going to feel safe? And how can we promote and cultivate spaces where people feel safe, similar to what everyone else shared. In a virtual world, I think it's, you know, allowing people not to have their cameras on when they don't need to have their cameras on, allowing them to use chat. So creating opportunities for them to still engage in that safe space, being really respectful. I had some groups where, you know, non-Black people were running the groups. And when they were running the groups, they were open to say, you know, this is my privilege. This is a power imbalance that I bring coming into this group. But I want you to know that you can tell me, and I will be listening if you don't feel safe or if something happens where you don't feel comfortable. And so being able to identify what those power imbalances may exist, creating space so people can talk about when they don't feel safe or when they feel that, that their voices and not being heard in that process.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think two things that I got from just that whole discussion is that we need to be able to create safer spaces. We need to let them speak their narrative because it's their story, their experience. And we also need to not make assumptions based on what does a safe space look like for an individual. So that's really good conversation right there. Thank you. And the last question, Keisha or Nicole can answer this. What are your suggestions on how Black families can address the traumatic impact of interacting with systems and experiencing anti-Black racism? Keisha, I guess you want to go first? I don't know.
I was waiting to see if Nicole wanted to go first, but okay, I'll go first. I really love this question because when we think about the institutions that we interact with as Black people typically, or we come into contact with, like education system or policing or justice system or healthcare and the child welfare system, they all have policies and practices that basically don't work well for us majority of the time. And the policies and practices were created a very long time ago within a historical context of white supremacy, colonialism, and anti-Black racism. And we know that they've all been woven into the very fabric of how these systems operate. So the success that we see within Black families, despite all of this, is just a testament to the resistance that we're always, you know, demonstrating, to the resilience that we have. So it's important for us to understand that although all of these things are happening, and yes, there's resilience and there's a lot of resistance, that it is a trauma, right? So I like the fact that we've included that in the question, because if we're going to look at it as a trauma as it is, as collective trauma, then there's steps that we have to take in terms of our healing, right? We have to use the wisdom of our experiences to be able to support each other, to move forward. So I think when I think of parents, what they can do is, you know, making sure they provide safe and loving homes for their children, listening to their children. I think the other day, Cheryl had mentioned the census with DDSB. And one thing that I noticed in the chat was the parents giving examples of things that their children may or may have said to them about things they were experiencing in the classroom. And the typical response might be to ignore it, brush it off, or to even maybe think that, you know, the child is at fault when they're expressing that the teacher doesn't like me, or maybe the teacher is racist. Sometimes they say it out loud, but we as parents need to listen to them really and go and advocate for them. And them seeing us advocate for them develops more of a protective factor, right? In order to address the trauma that they're experiencing. And I also think that it's important to seek out the supports and ensure that Black children have spaces and places, we were just talking about safe places, right? That they can be where their racial and cultural identity is amplified in positive and affirming ways, because we know cultural identity, racial identity can be a protective factor against the harmful impacts of anti-Black racism, right? So we as parents, as community members, as adults, as leaders in the community, as whatever, you know, role you might play, you know, have a real responsibility to ensure that we're creating those spaces and that we're encouraging the children and the youth to be actively involved in them as well at the same time. But yeah, I think those are some of the things that I would suggest, and I'll toss it over to you, Nicole.
So well said.
Thank you, Keisha.
You're welcome.
That was so well said. I love the question because I wrote it, but whatever. But I just wanted to highlight the traumatic impact. It seems like, you know, when you think about, for example, school system, and you think about going to school, like I can remember something that happened in junior K. That was like 40 years ago. And I remember for years, like when I would talk about it or even just remember it, I get all choked up, I want to cry. It was like I was reliving that experiences. And that's what it does to our kids, right? I remember speaking one time with a pastor, and he told me, you know, every time he drives down Highway 2, sometimes he works late, you know, ministers, after 10, the church could go on for a long time. He's driving down Highway 2, and he's like, every single time I drive down Highway 2, I'm always pulled over by a police officer. And so when he's going down that street, he's now worried, like, oh my gosh, are they going to pull me over? What am I going to do? What's going to happen? So when we interact with those systems, it hurts, it stays with us, and that fear stays with us. And so as parents, it's important to, as Keisha said, listen to your children, because they're right. They know what's going on, and they feel when things are different. You know, a couple of days ago, one of my therapists was talking about a young girl who, she kept raising her hand in the class, in virtual class, and the teacher wasn't paying attention or didn't notice that she was raising her hand. Anyways, she just had a temper tantrum. And so the mom got really upset at her and said, you know, why are you having a temper tantrum? Like, behave yourself, whatever. I don't know the context, but one of the things that I said was, maybe she was feeling something. Maybe she felt that the teacher was ignoring her and this was impacting her. And maybe the temper tantrum wasn't out of, you know, behavioral disruption. Maybe it was because she was hurt and she didn't know how to express how she's feeling. And so that's what I'm suggesting with parents as well, is just pay attention to your kids, ask them about what's happening in school, how they feel. You know, they know when a teacher looks at them differently, or they know when they're either experiencing, you know, a differential treatment. You know, when we walk into stores and you notice and people are looking at you, or in some stores, they don't even bother looking at you because they think you can't afford it. I mean, these things stay with us, and we can talk about it as a community, but it impacts our emotional, social, you know, how we feel about ourselves, you know, and lastly, that traumatic impact brings on that feeling of shame. So feelings of, you know, we're not worthy, you know, not good enough. It impacts their self-confidence or self-esteem. And all of those things, you know, impact us when we're in relationships or we're going out for a new job. One of the other things parents can do is be really intentional in connecting their children, connecting their young people with mentors, with positive people within their life. And that's the benefit of organizations such as Power to Be Me, Power to Be International, or Wonderfully Made, or Durham One, is those mentorship programs really help our young people. It helps our young people to feel that they have a safe space, they have a loving adult who really cares about them and wants them to succeed and gives them opportunities to succeed. Those things are really important in addressing, you know, some of that emotional impact from interacting with those systems.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much for our panelists for that great discussion. I hope that our listeners, our participants, was able to get some great information and suggestions and advice from them. I do ask that Olivia, Keisha, and Cheryl and Nicole continue to stay with us, because there may be other questions down the road that we'd like for you to answer. So once again, thank you so much. And we're halfway there, guys, and we still have more organizations to hear about. So imagine what more goodies we are going to hear. Imagine. So let's now, we're going to look at family services, agencies, and programming within Durham region. And I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Perryman. So she'll be speaking about Ifarada, Center for Excellence, Kajenga Wellness Project, and the Kajali Line. Thank you, Nicole.
So thank you so much to everyone for having us today. We started this showcase to honor Kajali Line, which is our new support line I'll talk about in a little bit. But in that process, I was like, nah, we need to bring up all the other organizations that exist. And so one of them is my other organization, Ifarada Center for Excellence. I'll start this story off. In 2013, I started an organization called Rfwc Consulting and Counseling Services, and we provided fee-based services, mental health services to families. And through that process, I started to see some gaps with families who may not have been able to pay, to families who needed additional supports in different areas of their life, as well as, our limitations as an organization. So Ifarada was developed over the past year. We've developed connections with the school board. We've provided services in those areas. We've also become a family services agency. So what we provide is mental health counseling to individuals and families at a pro bono, no rate currently right now for counseling. We do have that available. We also provide therapeutic groups such as Nia Gwenda, Askira Girls, which have been virtual actually over the last year, and providing virtual support groups. And within those groups, they talk about self-esteem, self-confidence, anxiety, give them some tools for social skills that is beneficial for them. We also have parent support groups. So parents who may be struggling with co-parenting issues, parents who need support with children with behavioral needs. We also have a program called Stop Now and Plan, which is a program designed to support children who are having difficulties in school and providing them intensive support within a group environment. But it also includes a parent support. So it gives parents an opportunity to connect with other parents who are experiencing similar challenges with their youth, to connect and grow together as a community. Within Ifarada, we also developed a mentorship program. So you heard about Wonderfully Made. We also have an elder to youth program. So part of what I enjoyed of growing up is listening to my aunties and uncles talk about stories about back in the day, back home in Trinidad or Jamaica. And that was like life for me. And I know many of those services are not offered as much anymore. And so the MESI program, Elder to Youth program, is really based on that premise of connecting our young people with the stories of our elders and the rich traditions that they grew up with, and hoping to carry that culture forward. And lastly, Ifarada also offers a equity training program. So for individuals who are looking to develop equity within their organization, who just want to know what is equity, what is anti-Black racism, we offer some training and education in that process as well. And we have Kajanga. Kajanga is our baby. I feel like Anita needs to be at this shared platform with me, if we can spotlight Anita too. Thank you. So Anita and I are co-founders of the Kajanga project. Anita, tell us what your viewpoint of Kajanga has been.
You know what, to be honest with you, I am very grateful and happy that we were able to create this organization for the community. This is a way of us being able to, as we said before, and we've talked about already, is that it's a community, it's an organization to help develop strong relationships within families, being able to educate our families on different things that they may be going through, and being able to support them and provide the services, or even just referring them to resources. So, I mean, us being able to connect with the over 1,000 people that we've already connected with in the last year, being able to make an impact on them for me, it's great, because I want to be able to make an impact, right? And I felt that when, we talked about this was a way for us to be able to do it. So yeah, that's just my feel.
Thank you. Absolutely. And our pillars are really grounded in the experiences that are important for our community. We, talk about and we teach and kind of educate people on what is anti-Black racism, systemic issues and oppression, and how does that impact families. And we give people tools and suggestions on how to navigate the system through that approach. Our pillars are really on, building family, because we believe that by building the family, we also can build our community to be stronger. We're advocates for social justice, for education, for advocacy, as well as health and mental health. So as you know, we've done multiple workshops. We were supposed to do like 6. We did like over 24 workshops, and our workshops are really geared around these principles. We have an amazing Building Generational Wealth series that we've developed, and talks about financial literacy, land ownership, house ownership, building your own business, entrepreneurship. And those are really the foundations of financial wealth that we want to build within our community. Other programs we've had has been on, mental health, working with the family. Next week, we have some amazing programs for the LGBTQ 2+ community as well. And so all of those programs that we offer is geared to support the family. We also have support groups such as Queens Unite. We also have a men's support group, as well as our Kajali support line. So the Kajali support line is really a navigation service that is available for families. So if you are a family looking for services for your family, for your child, for your elder, Kajali line is there to help you. Once you call in the line, we kind of have a discussion with you around what are your needs, what is important for you, and what are you looking for? And then we're able to either provide services in-house or connect with other individuals such as Olivia, such as Nicholas, such as Sarah, to be able to connect you with those resources. We provide a soft transfer as well. We also have a mentorship program. So if you're interested in becoming a family mentor, that would be something that we're also, hoping to recruit mentors. As we know, as moms, dads, caregivers, aunties, uncles, sometimes we just need a listening ear. We just need someone to talk to about our children or just even our family system. And so we really developed this mentorship program as a way to provide that peer-to-peer mentorship and to help kind of reduce some of the isolation that many people experience within our community. We are available Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Right away. So someone will be able to respond to your phone call right away. We also take emails and voice messages and return your call the next day. So it's quite immediate service. There is no wait list. It's really just us being able to outsource supports to the family. Currently, we received a small grant, and we're giving away some gift cards as well to Walmart, as well as some hygiene kits. So if you are interested in additional support, you need additional support, please reach out to us as well, and we'll put you on that list. Anything else I missed, Anita, in regards to Kajali line?
I think you touched a base on everything, to be honest with you. But definitely, Nicole mentioned it before, we are going to be having a wellness fair. We were hoping to have it this year, but of course, COVID changes everything for us. That will be in 2023 because we are hoping that we can do it in person and COVID will be like poof, by then. So please look out for that as we will provide some more information. But Nicole, you pretty much covered everything for Kajenga and Kajali.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention, sorry, my mouse is finicky. I just also wanted to mention that it's going to be a party, because you know how we just like to party. So it will be a party wellness fair.
There you go. Next, thank you, Nicole. Thank you. So next we are going to touch base on recreational, cultural, and social programs. And for our first presenter, we are going to have Keisha Facey. She'll be talking about Rhythm Fit. She spoke a little bit already about One Vision, One Voice, but she might touch base a little bit more on that. So Keisha, take it away.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Nicole. So again, I'm back again. So I think I'm going to start with this image here, this picture. In this picture, I'm in the blue jacket with my mouth open. I was one of those kids that were just always, that's me. And my sister and some really close friends that I grew up with. Behind me is my dad. And in front of me is a woman named Ms. Mavis Palmer. And my dad and Ms. Mavis Palmer were really integral in developing a program called Harambe. And this is actually taking place in Regina, Saskatchewan, and I think 1985 or 1986. My family, they were some of the first Black families to settle in Regina, Saskatchewan, coming from the Caribbean in the 60s and the 70s. So as you can imagine, there was not a lot of representation of Blackness, and there was not a lot of programming. So this group of young people, because they were young people at the time, no different, much younger than all of us, I think most of us, except for maybe Nicole's daughter that was on the call today, in their 20s, basically deciding that in order for their children and their children's children and the community to thrive, that it's important for them to have an understanding of community and have an understanding of cultural identity and have an understanding of roots and culture and all of those things. So when I think about the work that I've done in the community, the work that I do with Rhythm Fit Wellness, the work that I do with One Vision, One Voice, I think about it and I think about this image and this point in time and this being the foundation of it all. So we can go on to the next slide, Nicole, thank you. So Rhythm Fitness. So it was founded in 2014. We're located in Ajax. I put the actual address on here because I don't know, but it's there. So we serve the community by offering fitness programs, personal training and dance classes for children, youth, and adults that also want to live their best lives and take the journey to wellness in a fun, welcoming, and supportive environment. So essentially what we do offer is a children's dance and education program, and we have it for children ages 5 to 18. Prior to COVID, we had amazing opportunities to travel across the GTA and perform at functions and events, and the kids that were dancing, the girls that were part of the program were just so wonderful, and I miss them a lot. So I'm hoping that when things open back up, we'll be able to welcome them back into the studio, because it's just not the same without them here. So this is, and then in addition to that, we also have our adult dance fitness program, and that's really where it all started. And in this group, I was supported and continue to be supported by a wonderful group of women that came together with the hopes of just, exercising, being fit, living their best lives, being well, focusing on mental wellness, understanding the connection between mind, body, and spirit, and really looking for like-minded individuals to get together and listen to some soca music and some reggae music and Afro beats and dancehall and just, exercise and be free in our own space. When we talk about that safe space, that was what Rhythm Fit was, the tenets that it was founded upon. So here we are still, all of these years later, still in action, and I'm very, very proud of that. We have our own location, as I mentioned, at 845 Westney Road, which we opened in 2015. So 6 years, and we're still going, very happy. And we can go on to the next slide now, Nicole, thank you. And then in addition to Rhythm Fit, there's Rfwc Consulting. And this is where, actually it's funny because I've met Nicole. If I could just pause for a moment. Nicole, I admire you so much. I really wanted to say that. The work that you do in the community, in supporting people, in elevating all of us is fantastic. You are absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to say that. So anyways, Rfwc Consulting, that is the equity, inclusion, and organizational change consulting. So what we do a lot of workshops. We do seminars, we do community consultations and focus groups, and we do lead a lot of courageous conversations and develop equity action plans at organizations. Our main focus is dismantling anti-Black racism across multiple sectors using an intersectional lens. So we've had the opportunity to work with the DDSB, we've had the opportunity to work with the municipality of Durham, Ministry of Community, Children and Social Services, Hub, Springboard. There's several organizations that we've worked with. And in doing that, we just mainly focus on how can we embed anti-racist practices across sectors and across systems. That's our goal. So that's basically what Rfwc Consulting is about. And we can go on to the next slide. I also included my contact information at the bottom of them. And then One Vision, One Voice. So One Vision, One Voice, the program led by the African Canadian community. It's funded by the Ontario Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services through the Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies, and addresses the overrepresentation and experience of disparities faced by African Canadians after coming into contact with the child welfare system. Within One Vision, One Voice, we actually have several frameworks that are used to guide the work that we do. So initially it started in 2016 with the research report. And I'm standing on the shoulders of giants in terms of the work that I'm doing here in NADA. I know that you're familiar with the work of One Vision, One Voice and Kika Ojo and the initial team that was doing the work to really dismantle anti-Black racism within child welfare. I joined in 2020. So I'm really literally standing on the shoulders of giants. So after that, there was the 11 race equity practices, which also came out in 2016. Since then, we've launched the Promising Practices and Implementation Toolkit in 2020, and the African Canadian Service Delivery Model, which we'll be launching this year in 2021. Again, with the support of Nicole Perryman. She worked on with that project with us as a consultant as well, and the African Canadian Leadership Mentorship Program. As well, we will be offering a Confronting Anti-Black Racism and Child Welfare for Leaders course. And this is a provincial project that is, again, funded by the Ministry of Community, Children and Social Services. And we're really looking forward to what we have coming ahead for the next year to come. So we'll be having new announcements coming out shortly, but if anybody wants to get in contact, they're welcome to send an email to onevision.onevoice@oacs.org. And I believe that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keisha. And yes, you said that you're standing on some pillar strong shoulders, but girl, I know you got it. So you know what, you'll do great work with One Vision, One Voice. Thank you so much for the information. And next we're going to have Sarah from the Ajax Public Library.
I just have to turn on my camera and my mic. I think I know how to do that by now. Unfortunately, no. So thank you so much. I'm really enjoying all the speakers. I'm taking tons of notes. So thank you so much for including us in this wonderful evening of discovery. Again, my name is Sarah Dodge. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Ajax Public Library. As you know, Ajax Public Library is funded by the town of Ajax, indirectly through our Ajax Library Board. So we are tax supported by people living in the Ajax area. Our mandate is to be a gateway of information for all ages and also to support lifelong learning and also to always to engage our community. So today I thought I'd just talk about some fun things that we're offering during the summer for families and kids as they head out into another summer of strangeness in the COVID world. So right now we're looking at some programming that is offered to kids 0 to 12 and also teens 13 and up. Right now, Ajax, because of public health order, we are currently offering these programs as online. And I'm sure all our kids are familiar with the online environment, but we will continue to offer that during the summer months until we get different instructions. So in the summer, we offer what's called the TD Summer Reading Club. And I've posted the link here. You can find out all the information about signing up for this online club. Also too, we have a paper kit you can pick up at any location starting this Saturday, June the 19th. We encourage people to read for 120 minutes at a time to collect points and to be entered into prizes. Some of the programs that we're offering to support this are our summer reading buddies. And this Wednesday evening program has high school teens who are trained to work with staff and also little buddies who are up to the ages from 6 to 12 and practice their reading skills. We also have a French stream under Le Club Français. We've also partnered with a variety of individuals in the community, scientists in schools, and Ontario Tech to offer some programs on sticky science and also to STEM and Scratch coding. This year, we're also offering intergenerational STEM programs for children grades 1 to 3 and seniors 55 plus, where they can work through the different ideas of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Each week, they'll plant, code, design, create, and build. And it's this idea of working with older adults and younger people together to learn together. Also, too, we're offering some great programs under Superstar Storytellers, and then also to parent cafes with partnerships with Grandview and other organizations. The library, as I mentioned, we're still in the online environment, so we have lots of great services through our website that you can take a look at. So you can register for an e-card, place holds on ebooks and movies, use them from home, or place holds on print materials and get those items for you at any of our locations through curbside pickup. We have staff assistants always who chat from the website, and also you can call us on the phone. And then online, you can, as I mentioned, join any of the programs I've just described. On site right now, we currently offer curbside and pedestrian pickups, so that's for your physical materials. There is now availability to book computer appointments and print materials and use our scanning and faxing equipment. Coming soon, we hope to have you on site for browsing. So that's really a summary of what we're doing right now. So thank you very much, and feel free to visit us at our website, ajaxlibrary.ca, to find out more information, or reach out to myself at sarah.dodge@ajaxlibrary.ca. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that information. We'll definitely have your contact information. And once again, as we've noted and I've stated numerous of times throughout this presentation, you will be getting a QR code for all of the organizations that have been presented today. And as we come to the last program, which is mine, which is my baby. Everybody has a baby. This is my baby. So it's called Empowered Queens. And I'm going to explain the reason why I had created Empowered Queens. It was because there's two aspects to it. There's a section for ladies, which we called Level Up. And that was pre-COVID. So this was around 2019 that I started the program. And that was for a night for women to be able to get together, to sort of talk, build a community, sort of like a sisterhood, where we talk about different things and just, learn from each other based on our experiences and things that we've gone through that affects us, right? And that was done virtually. And then my other section is the Young Queens program. And I created the Young Queens program because working in child welfare, I noticed that there was a lack of social skills program for a lot of young girls, and especially young Black girls. And the things that they were going through, that they were experiencing, and things like that, I felt that I needed to create something that not only that I can educate them and teach them and give them the skills and the bag of tricks that they need to be able to be successful, but even almost like a mentorship, so that I can also be almost like a mentorship to them. So, sorry, Nicole, if you can go back to Young Queens. So Young Queens, as I stated, is a social skills program. It was created for young girls ages 8 to 12. It started in 2019 and it was in person. As I stated, I found that in the Black community, some of these young girls were either lacking basic social skills, having self-esteem and self-image issues, or unable to manage or understand their emotional and mental well-being. So the purpose of Young Queens is to help young girls learn how to help identify who they are, understand their worth, elevate their skills, and most importantly, love themselves. So the program is taking place 2 to 3 times a year. As I stated, it was in person. It was very hard for me to do it virtual because I love being in the presence of our young, our youngins. And I think a lot of people had also said the same thing, that not being able to be in person has been hard. But the one good thing about COVID is being on Zoom and being able to reach far and wide. So although it is supposed to be for Durham, I have at least been able to reach kids from the West End, even down to Nova Scotia. I had a young girl. So that was the great piece about being on Zoom, is being able to reach and being able to help girls no matter where they are. So for our program, Nicole, next page, please. So as I mentioned, we do have Level Up Ladies Night. And then there's the Queens Unite support group that Nicole had mentioned. And then we also, as I stated, the Young Queens support group. And of course, if you need further information, you can email me. My contact information is there. Even just to get more information for our upcoming sessions, that'll be great. Thank you. So once again, I want to thank all of our organizations that participated this evening. It was a great evening. As I stated, I learned about organizations that I did not even know about existed or was created in Durham. And I've been living here for 26 years. And so to hear and to be able to come together and to hear what is offered to our families in the community is awesome. And I want to be able to use this last few minutes just to see if there's anybody a part of our organization that may have any summer programs that they may want to talk about, so that, once again, for those who might be listening or participating, they will know where they can go or what programs are available. So if there's anybody, you can put your hand, there you go. And then you can tell us, and then I'll do questions afterwards. Cheryl, I see your hand up. You can go.
Thank you, Annetta. So I wanted to mention that families can check out www.dben.org. And we have a program that's called the Blueprint Project, Framing Your Future Success. So this is for students who are transitioning from grade 8 into high school within Durham District School Board. So they have to be in the public system, but it's a great way for people to have those reminders and just that grounding of identity and looking at resourcing the way that they can really transition successfully into high school. Registration will be for about 40 students. So it's really first come, first serve. So that information will be coming out in July. Like, it will be coming out soon, but it will also be posted on the website. So I would say just look out for that, and hopefully just staying connected to schools or just these community organizations will give us all of those healthy tips for the summer. So thank you.
That's perfect. And you know what, Cheryl, you actually almost answered a question I would have asked, which was, what are some strategies and suggestions you have to support Black parents navigating the final few weeks of school? So to know that we have that, that's awesome. Stephen Linton.
Hi, thank you. So yeah, just to re-promote, I guess, the Know Your Rights campaign that we're going to be working on. There's a few elements to it. One is a survey that we want to put out to young people to ask them questions around interactions with police. The next piece is a table talks, which actually will be partnering with Caregivers, and they'll be supporting, facilitating some of those discussions between some of our young people and police officers, and then creating space to debrief with them after, just in case some of those conversations, create any negative triggers. So I want to ensure that we're promoting and taking care of our young people and their mental wellness. And then the final piece will be to promote videos that are created based on the answers to questions that young people would have. So being able to promote that, so as many young people as possible have that information, so they can feel confident about having interactions with police officers, but can also come back to organizations like ours should this interaction go wrong, so there's support for them. So information will be coming out very soon. We will be supporting young people and compensating them for their time sitting at the table and for going through the surveys. So if that can be promoted, again, we'll get all the material out to you. And again, looking forward to this partnership with Caregivers, Durham Regional Police, and some other amazing community groups.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stephen. And Keisha. Sorry, Keisha McPherson.
Yes, there's two Keishas in the room and two different spellings. You see,
exactly. Throw me off.
I was going to say
Caribbean people. I'm telling you, we just create our own everything.
Exactly.
Thank you again for this. This is really great. We shared a lot of information here that I think is so helpful for our community. I really appreciate Caregivers for putting this on, and I wanted to just say thank you for that. For the Power to Be International, we are doing a Engaging Girls program. I think I mentioned it in the presentation. So it's for Black girls 12 to 15 years old going into grades 8, 9, and 10. We picked that age because of the transition to high school as well, just sort of focusing on that. And because they've spent a year in virtual in and out of school too. So the students that went into grade 9, they were back and forth, not really getting a full year in high school. So it's for Black girls. We're really trying to focus specifically. We're really happy about being able to get funding to then cater to the nuanced needs. So I'm talking bonnets, silk pillowcases, Black hair care products, so just really focusing on the needs for Black girls. And then, working on some of that social work as well. Lynn Williams, I think the Caregivers folks know Lynn. She's also a part of our team, and so she'll be working with some of that stuff. So for information on that program, it's going to run in summer. We're going to start around mid-July, but then the overnight retreat is in Collingwood for 4 nights. I'm so excited about that. You know, and we're trying to do this with all the COVID restrictions and stuff like that. It's very difficult, and it's like we want to serve as much girls as possible, so we're really working hard to maintain those standards. If you know any families that have Black girls in that age range and that might benefit from this program, please visit our website and sign up there. We also have a parent information session because I know some parents would want to know more about what their girls are going to be participating in. So those are scheduled for June 19th and 22nd. They could register for that as well, just so that they're comfortable registering, but we will take good care of Black girls because yes, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keisha. And Olivia.
Yes, I just want to reiterate our Project Back to School event. Though we are partnering with the Durham District School Board, that doesn't mean that that's an exhaustive partnership. So we take donations and we also provide school supplies for families in need. And school supplies goes as far as educational resources as well. So it's a pretty broad spectrum of what we can provide. So I just wanted to re-plug the event that's happening on August 5th, and also to let everyone know that if you have families that you know that are in need, please reach out to us and we're happy to provide the needs. There is a portfolio with the Durham District School Board called Make a Difference, and this is who we're partnering with, and they actually they're doing the same thing we're doing. So that's also why we're collaborating. And they provide families with other things, like you talking about lunch bags, shoes, books, resources for students to continue in their educational endeavors, and just give them the things that they might not have, like a pencil or a pencil case. And I know that things are online now. So we're looking to see how we can accommodate that, because we know that every family has different needs and different resources available to them. So we want to make sure that if we know that things are continuing to be virtual, then we can provide what's needed for those families as well, aside from the physical actual supplies. So again, you can reach out to me for more information, and this is an annual event. So if not this year, then maybe next year and going forward. So thank you guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Olivia. And Sarah, I know that you had mentioned the summer programs that the Ajax Public Library is already going to be presenting for the summer. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
We have a whole host I didn't touch on. I need lots of time to touch on all the programs that we're offering. So feel free to check our website. It's the best way to see what's available for adults, older adults, seniors, teens. We've got lots of great partnerships for our teen programs this summer as well. So looking forward to seeing as many people as we can.
For sure. Thank you so much. And Keisha, Foresee, do you have any summer programs with Rhythm Fit coming up for kids or adults or anybody?
We're just waiting to reopen, to be quite honest, Anita. We've been online for a while, so we're just waiting to, once we reopen, we're just going to resume where we left off with our programs for our children that are participating. Yeah. So as soon as we get the green light, that's it. So that people can find out about what's happening at rhythmfit.com on our website. We keep all of this stuff up to date in terms of scheduling and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Keisha McPherson, we have a question for you. Is there a demographic limit to your program? So I think it's for the one that you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. So it's just 12. It's grade 8, 9, and 10, and identify as Black. That's just pretty much the demo. Oh, in terms of it's the Ministry of Ontario funding, so it could be anywhere. We would just have to, if somebody's coming way out, we would just have to figure out transportation to get up to the Collingwood. But it could be, we haven't said it was strictly GTA, right? So, but so far it's been just GTA that's been registering. So yeah, I did have one question though, because I saw in the chat, somebody mentioned Black healthcare services, like Taibu in Durham. I thought that was CARIA. Am I incorrect in believing that CARIA provides those services, or services to Black families specifically, or has programs for Black families in Durham? I just wanted to know if anybody has any information, like just to answer that question, because I'm just curious.
No, it's more general to the entire public.
Okay. So some of the questions that came up was, I think this is when, I forget, it was earlier in the discussion, but somebody had mentioned, what about all of our small Black centered organizations working together and pulling the small funding they are getting to make a bigger impact in the community through collaborations? So that was a comment that was made. Nicholas Barnum wanted, Nicholas, are you still here? Because if you're here, you can actually present what you had put in the chat, if you're still here. No, okay. So Nicholas has stated Dad Fest, which is a virtual celebration this Sunday for Father's Day. It will be a celebration and conversation about fatherhood and fathers. And Nicholas, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, so please don't think so, okay? But I need to say that Kajenga's having their Father's Day Let's Talk event tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So if you want, you can just get your free ticket at Kajenga Wellness on Eventbrite and get your free ticket. So you can be there too. If you can't attend ours, you can always go to Nicholas on Sunday. Karen Saunders had also stated, I'm currently working on a project that is a joint project between Child Welfare, the Ministry, and Region of Durham. This is to strengthen the services and families in the region to address the overrepresentation involvement with CAS. This funding would be $250,000 per year for at least 3 years, and DCAS, so Durham Children's Aid, has made a commitment that every dollar will go to the community grassroots organizations. That is awesome. So she's stating, please look out for the invite to the community needs consultation. Okay, and as Olivia stated, www.blackmentalhealthmatters.ca, which is a resource for mental health services. Are there any last words before we end this great night that we just had?
I would like to say that, Stephen, we need to collaborate, because I'd love to be part of a health center for Black folks in Durham region. That's yes. We are also running some summer programs as well. So Nada forgot to mention that we're giving away food tomorrow.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yes.
I was too excited, man. I was too excited.
Okay, so if we can have some more people, they will get free food. We also did a draw, so I also have to say who won. We at Ifarada is also doing some summer program. We have a Kasoma reading circle, which is going to be held on Thursday, similar to a reading club with kids age 3 to youth. So you also get a free book as well and some other swag. So please join. That'll be Thursdays in July. On Wednesdays in July, we're hosting a summer camp, a virtual summer camp. It's supposed to be fun for those who can't really do much over the summer, worried about COVID. We have a virtual summer camp on Wednesdays. We are also still running our therapeutic groups. So Queens Unite for the women who are looking for groups, our men's group program as well, and our programs for youth ages 6 to 15, 16 are also available.
And sorry, I just want to say one thing. Karen Saunders has stated that she would love for everybody to be at the table in regards to the initiative that Durham Children's Aid has. And her contact information is in the chat, karen.saunders@durhamcas.ca. So once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you for coming and listening to all of the great information that we were able to provide to you. I hope that even though you may not have known about some of the organizations, you learned, and even if you did know, you got to hear a little bit more of what they're about and what services and programs they've recreated or revamped or even just starting. So once again, thank you, presenters. Thank you so much for your information. Thank you for providing the repping your organization, I should say. And once again, have a good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us.